If you can't beat 'em, then you pop 'em. You can't man 'em, then you mop 'em. You can't stand 'em, then you drop 'em. You pop 'em, cause we pop 'em like over red and vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
To Monday morning mining, Bitcoin mining, of course, with Matt Aggie. I'm Sean Ristau, and we've got a shortened week here. Thanksgiving, so a lot of people are traveling. People are not in front of their computer. I will not tell my wife that I'm in front of the computer. She'll just see me. But no. Anyways, Matt, great to see you, brother. And thanks for taking the time again.
Yeah, no, good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. Looking forward to the holiday.
Likewise. Let's dive in though. It was we don't have to get into too much of the price, but it was an interesting week last week. It was had a lot of people scratching their head.
Certainly. I think we spent the last couple of weeks talking about some off-grid mining use cases, flare gas mining. So we thought we'd spend this week, try out a new structure here with some mining news and just give some top headlines. But certainly the price is one of the major topics that's out there. Dropped down to, what was it, 80K, right, 80.5K, and now we've rebounded a little bit since then.
Yeah.
Right now 87.8. But so I wanted to take you, Sean, and everybody through some high-level network statistics here and just give people the state of what's going on with the mining industry right now. It's kind of a tough time with that price decrease, but you can kind of see right now we're at block height 925,022. So the network's chugging along, and we have now mined 19,953,000 Bitcoin. So one of the big news things last week, Sean, I don't know if you saw it, we've now mined 95% of the Bitcoin supply that will ever exist. So only 5% left. So
95.2 now. 95.2.
So, Bitcoin, 21 million that will ever exist. And now there's only 5% left for, the rest of the world who doesn't own Bitcoin to get after it and start to get up zero. So, with that though, difficulty now is near its all-time high at 152.27 T. So I'm going to go through each one of these a little bit more detail, but we've seen that come down a little bit, but there's really not much relief when it comes to difficulty. And why is that? It's because the mining hash rate is now still well above, in excess of a zeta hash at 1111 exahash, which it's been reliably over 1,000 exahash since September, and haven't seen much relief. So yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the hash rate.
Yeah.
Right. So hash rate, all-time hash rate is exponential. It's pretty crazy, right? And we'll get back to this, but if you think back to 2021, you had an all-time high hash rate there at 180 exahash, and then you had China announce a mining ban, and what looks like a blip today was actually a 50% reduction in the hash rate in a couple of months. So it's pretty incredible how that's rebounded since 2021, and it's just absolutely ripping exponentially up and to the right since then.
We've had a little bit of a, you see that peak, where we peaked at a little higher than where we are, but
yep.
I mean, the trajectory, really has been up and to the right. It's really to what extensivity, we're seeing that. And, that being said, I mean, you were saying, you and I were talking earlier about the news events. I mean, what is it? China now is back 14%. Like, they account for roughly 14% of the global share of mining. I mean, we've gone back and forth on this. We've gone up, it's banned, up, no, it's not, up, it's banned. Like,
yeah,
I think it's fair to say, like, I would never assume that they're out of the game at all. And also I think a lot of people don't take into account that the way things are done over there is a little different than here. Like I've heard quite a few stories, on how the power, like people connected, what they can do. I've never been to China, so I can't say. But no, Matt, would love your thoughts. I mean, what do you think is pushing this whole boom that we're seeing, if you will, back with China?
Yeah, so this is Reuters this morning. They posted a story about China's resurgence in the mining hash rate. So yeah, like you said, I think they're back up now. If you look at hash rate index, back up to 14% of the hash rate, which, I thought they banned it, but apparently not. So, what's going on there? Just some dubious speculation on my part. But if you look at the network statistics that we were showing, right, and you stack all these things together, you've got price down, you've got hash rate up, you've got difficulty up, and you've got fees at 1 sat per vbyte. So this is the type of environment, and we'll get to hash price here in a minute, but this is the time where you probably would see traditionally capitulation in the mining space, right? You'd see, and you do see it coming off a little bit, right? Just a little bit from the high, but it's still quite high, and difficulty is still high, and the price is low. So the hash price is actually, this is the other news thing of the week. Hash price hit its all-time low on the 22nd of November. So it's really never been worse for Bitcoin miners, especially if you're someone that's grid connected and paying higher electricity prices. You're really getting squeezed right now. So kind of back to what's going on with China, like why aren't we seeing more capitulation in the hash rate? You've got big players, China, Russia, and others in the mix. And you kind of start to ask yourself, are these really price insensitive miners? Are these people who can take this kind of an environment on the chin and keep going? So, just to speculate, you see what's going on with gold, China stacking gold reserves, other geopolitical stuff with tariffs. Is Bitcoin becoming another tool in the toolkit in the realm of geopolitics behind the scenes? That's a question I have. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I mean, 100%. I think it's easy for people to say no, because I don't think everybody has the inside scoop at what is really going on behind the scenes. But I mean, when you look at what's going on in the overall market, you had a sell-off last week. You had JPMorgan came out and said, oh, it was all retail driven, majority retail driven. Their floor, they think the bottom is around 85. Well, we kind of bumped around on that. But then now you have, you're still hearing talk from politicians about Bitcoin. You're not hearing that it's a scam like you did before. China's been somewhat quiet about Bitcoin as of late. There hasn't been a lot out of there. And then you're not hearing as much, at least I'm not hearing as much negativity here in the US or fear, I would say. I know we have the fear index and it's down to like this record low, but I mean, I think everybody's held up. Everybody currently is held up on this mindset of basically like, well, is the, we have Bitcoin doing this right now, is it the same cycle as before? And I mean, this is a loaded question that has been, it comes up. I mean, I think on every TV show it's been on as of late. And that being said, like, I don't think it's the same cycle. I don't think it's the same. I don't think all the cards are the same here. You have a lot more people in the mix. Obviously BlackRock is really doing what their customers want. They're just effectively servicing on behalf of those customers. But the fact that they're in the mix, and Fidelity and all these other big companies are in the mix buying and selling, I don't know. I mean, it's still volatile, but I don't think we're going to see what we saw before.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the 4-year cycle theory. This time is different though when you look across a bunch of different metrics. We had the all-time high in US dollar price terms before the halving. You've seen several different kind of 30% drawdowns from the highs, repeated numbers of times. And now we're pushing into Q4 in the post-halving year, and this is traditionally when you start to enter the bear market. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But regardless of price, the Bitcoin network is telling a different story with the up and to the right hash rate, and it just keeps plugging away block after block on average every 10 minutes. And they say price follows hash rate, so it's kind of telling a different story than price is right now.
Well, yeah, I think price has also been. So I had a call this morning, and the whole thing is basically like, I think people have this fallacy that they think, oh, this time it's going to go parabolic and it's just going to go to the moon and never come back down. I mean, we've seen this story before. Humans also do not adapt as well to change. So when you have this change, Bitcoin is still very new to a lot of people. Now, granted, me and you, we think, eat, sleep, and think about it, 24/7. But to the average person, it's not as big of a deal in their day because that's not what they're focused on. But I think as you don't have such negativity when these corrections happen, it's starting to become more commonly accepted and normal, as are the mining companies realizing, hey, maybe we have to diversify. We have our Bitcoin mining. That's one of our core structures. But then we also want to get into other things that we can turn into a profit center while still, having all these the core Bitcoin mining. That being said, I think to your point, this will help a lot of these miners get through a lot of the pain points they're having.
Yeah, that's spot on. So great segue into the hash price here, right? So I mentioned it earlier, but last week on the 22nd was actually the all-time low hash price. So at the same time, you're seeing increased difficulty, increased hash rate, but you've seen the
I think
price.
it's important to explain what is the hash. So why don't you explain that to the average user, like what is the hash price?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like basically the expected value of 1 terahash per second of hashing power per day, right? So it's here you're seeing the US dollar per petahash per day. So it's basically the amount of revenue that miners are pulling in. And maybe that's not exactly right, but it's basically how profitable or how much revenue the miners per terahash are pulling in, and it's going down, right? So as a unit rate, it's going down per terahash. So that means if they're doing the same amount of work, they're now earning less value from that work in terms of US dollars. So when you see this is quite a bumpy ride, but let me bring up the 5-year hash price here. So you can kind of see, I was thinking about this earlier today, right before the halving, I mentioned the all-time high in US dollars was right before the halving, the cycle. And so you actually saw hash price, some of the best that it's been in a couple of years since the prior bull market. And then of course the halving came in and cut that down. But really what you're seeing right now over the last couple of months is almost, if you're measuring your success in terms of US dollars, you're almost seeing an artificial halving right now, right? You can kind of think about it that way because the hash price is down 40 to 50% in a couple of months. So it's not an overnight cut in the revenue for miners, but it's been a slow drawdown, 40, 50%. And so if you're a miner that's paying your bills in dollars, if you're converting your Bitcoin to dollars, then you're making 50% less money than you were a couple months ago. So again, that's
while the hash rate, the difficulty continues to go up, making it harder, making it, you have to continue adding to your hardware stack and improving that. to make it more competitive, so to me, it's almost like a natural fit that you see some diversion, not really diversion, but I would call it more branching out into these other things. Because think of, if you can have your data center, let's say, be 50% AI, 50% Bitcoin, and that 50% AI is going to cover the cost of what you're doing, what you're mining, a good chunk of it on Bitcoin. It's not a bad way to look at it.
Absolutely. If you're solely reliant on Bitcoin and you have to sell it for US dollars to pay your bills, then you're hurting right now. That's why you see a lot of companies pivoting and migrating to AI and HPC. The margins are much better, and call this an artificial halving because they're not getting less Bitcoin per block. It's the same amount of Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
So if they can hold on to it and have other means of revenue to pay their bills or get through this period of time, then they can recover, right? The Bitcoin price can recover and appreciate. So yeah, that having another source of operating income, revenue, profitability helps diversify their operations to get through periods of time like this.
100%. I mean, and I'm just seeing over the news right now, Chinese president, Xi invited Trump to visit in April to, China. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this shakes out. I do think, kind of circling back really quick, I think anybody that counts China out on mining, I think is crazy, because that's just not how they work. Like, they don't operate that way. Like, they want to get into the game as well. And, so I think we're going to see a lot of bigger countries come back into the game. Because keep in mind, their cost of power is a lot cheaper than our cost of power.
Yep.
So
yeah, they're deploying. It's always in the news how much solar they're deploying, and Bitcoin mining, as we know, is a good way of taking advantage of excess renewables that are not productive when they're overproducing. I don't know that they're doing a lot of this at the moment, but it could be one of the things that, along with their solar energy capability, they're also deploying Bitcoin mining to take advantage of that.
Yeah. I think the other thing on the mining side, talking about profit and reward, like how about the solo miner that scooped up?
Yeah.
What was it, 200 grand, 265,000?
Yeah. So switching gears from nation states to solo miners mining in their house. Last week, we also had another solo block be won by, we think it's a Bitaxe Gamma, mining on CKPool, solo mining. So yeah, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on solo mining. I'm a big fan of it. In fact, we're trying to schedule a guest to come on and talk about the solo mining, home mining revolution and what they're doing and how that all has evolved. And we're working on getting that scheduled. But and in fact, this morning he told me, they're so busy because it happened last week that they're frantically filling a bunch of orders for these home miners. So yeah, it's like winning the lottery.
I think it's one of those things. Like, I mean, I don't see any issue with it, and I think I think we're gonna see it more and more, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's it's kind of my thesis long term, is nation states and then home miners is kind of the way it shakes out. But yeah, we'll see. It's certainly good for this person who won some Bitcoin, earned some Bitcoin, I should say. All right. Yeah, that was.
I mean, yeah, no. The only thing I was going to say on that really quick is, when you look at everything going on, I think it kind of also bodes into the whole topic of, with mining, like, people, there is still this want to control and want to be part of, like, not just get into it just to, like, hope the price continues to go up. People want to also be part of the overall ecosystem. And I think this really allows people to participate at a different level than just being like, hey, I bought my Bitcoin and now I'm just holding on to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great way to learn they're good educational tools to figure out how to set up a pool and, deal with rewards and even run a node. All those kinds of things are cool.
100%.
Yeah.
What are we thinking for next week, Matt? What are we thinking on who we're going to potentially have on the show?
Well, we're talking to several people. There's a lot of trends. We've talked about off-grid mining. It'd be cool to explore dual use. And so, like, now that we're approaching winter, and at least for
The heat.
the northern hemisphere, talk about heat and home mining with heaters and that whole trend that's playing out. Also the home mining, Bitaxe style movement that's taking place. That's cool. But we'd also like to talk to, and we're working with scheduling, big, tier 1 type public miners, and get their take on what's happening with the industry, the pivot to AI and HPC and the like. So those are all things that are coming up for the show.
100%. Everybody, thank you for joining. And if we don't see everybody on one of our other podcasts this week, want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving here in the U.S. Matt, happy Thanksgiving. And,
yeah, you too.
We'll be picking this back up next week, same time, 11 a.m. In Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. And feel free to reach out to us at our Twitter handle, 21rates.com, Bitcoin Economy. We got a couple of them. But definitely excited to pick up the conversation next week.
All right. Have a good holiday.
All right. Thanks so much, buddy.